You're listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony.
Welcome back to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. We are brought to you by Extreme Exteriors this hour and broadcasting live from the Concierge Landscape Studios. And Mike's always a great guest to have on, isn't he, Tony?
Yeah, he is. He's really smart and really passionate about the issues and extremely knowledgeable about the issues.
Always a lot of fun.
So it is fun to talk to him.
Well, we've got two segments left in our show today, and we wanted to revisit Senate File 926. If you recall, and were with us a few weeks ago, we had some concerns because in this new legislation, as it pertains to homeowner associations, there were a number of issues that they wanted to prohibit homeowner associations from having authority in.
Right.
One was being able to deal with emergency maintenance. It was going to be a prohibition for a manager or the association board to enter a unit, even if it was
at any time,
even for emergencies.
That's right.
If they didn't first get in writing permission from that homeowner. And that was ridiculous. And
not practical.
No.
Causes property damage.
There was a number of other issues, too. We were happy when we had Senator Chris Gerlach on the show to be able to talk. And he did mention that he said, this was just a first draft, and he did take that back. Was referred back to committee. He changed some things. There's some things that he came out with, and it has progressed. In fact, a number of us were at the state legislature just this last Friday, still speaking against the few things that Senator Gerlach still had in his bill. And we still have some concerns that we want to bring to you, our listeners. And if you're in a homeowner association, and if these are concerns for you as well, we want you to feel free to give us a call at New Concepts. Our number, 952-922-2500. Ask for me during the week, and I'd be happy to help give you some direction on where to contact at the state legislature next.
To voice your concerns.
To voice our concerns about this. And here's what we have right now in...
Yeah, what's shook out of this bill? What's still in it?
There are just three issues right now. The first one, if you recall, had to do with the American flag. Now, the state statute a few years ago was written to reflect that no homeowner association can prohibit someone from displaying the American flag, but they can direct how it is going to be displayed so that it's not necessarily going to be on a shared common element.
Well, and that was the whole point for the homeowners association. They wanted to be able to have some restrictions on where flags were mounted or planted because the association takes care of common areas. So they should be able to tell people you can't just poke a hole in the siding and mount this flag. You can't just put a huge flagpole in the front yard because we have to mow around it. We have to repair the siding. We have to repair the roof. So it made sense that the HOA should be able to dictate how it should be installed.
But some of those were also for other reasons, too. The display of the flag had nothing to do with being un-American, but it also... you may have homeowner may have put up a flag, but now that flag is waving and blocking someone else's view because when you're dealing with a homeowner association, you have attached units.
Sure.
Generally speaking.
Yes.
Other than in the case of single-family detached homes.
Yes, that's right.
And so in those cases, you have things where you're potentially blocking someone's view.
Sure. How about noise? A big flag whipping in the wind can be really noisy.
It is. We at New Concepts, we've got a great flagpole because our building used to be an American Legion, and it's a great pole. People love to see it. Anytime we put up a new flag, people are honking their horns as they go by, and it's great. But
it's noisy.
It's noisy.
You come in and out of the building, you hear it.
So there's an issue there because right now 926 has come back and said we want to say that homeowners would be allowed to display flags on flagpoles. You can't even prohibit
You can't
that.
prohibit a flagpole. Yeah.
Yes. And so we've got some concerns for that very thing that I stated.
The bill does say that the homeowners association can invoke some limitations on the size. They can limit the flag to a size customarily used on residential property. Very subjective.
Yeah, it is.
Opinion, but they're at least saying the association can say something about the size. They cannot prevent people from using a flagpole. It doesn't say this, but I guess I would make the assumption that they can have some qualifiers as to how big the flagpole can be or where it can be installed. Don't you think?
It doesn't state that, so I don't know that I could go beyond that. That's a concern.
It has to be installed in an area that owner has an exclusive use of. For example, patio. Although how about yard?
And here's where I have an issue.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with some condominium style homes, you will have basically two units, one on top of the other.
Okay.
And if and if a person has a ground floor unit and they have a patio area, they don't have a balcony. Mm-hmm. And they have exclusive use of that. Mm-hmm. They put in a flagpole, and now it goes up to the second floor. To the second floor, and you put a reasonable residential size flag.
Sure.
It's still blocking someone else's
That's
view.
fluttering right in front of your neighbor's balcony.
How about this? How about the person who's on the second or third floor, and they want to put a flagpole on their balcony because it's something they have exclusive use for, and now that extends up.
Yeah.
The things aren't addressed here. And when we were talking with people at the state legislature, it was as if it was just going in one ear and out the other, because there was a disconnect in what this can do in just stirring up all kinds of discontent
among neighbors
in a closely close community where you have people living so on top of one another and so close, right next to each other.
Why is that, Gene? Why do you think it just doesn't sink in?
I think it's just because there is a misunderstanding. I mean, don't get me wrong. The people at the state legislature they have a huge task ahead of them each year, and they only have so much time, and it's hard to be an expert in all of those issues. I just have concerns. But
that's why you voice your opinion, is because then they can hear from the experts. Yeah. Is it because they don't live in homeowner associations?
I think a majority probably do not.
And so they don't. It doesn't even cross their mind that's what a neighbor does might affect them.
Another issue I have here, and this has to do with campaign signs.
Okay, yeah, that was another big one.
And to me, this, I know everybody that was in the committee was talking about how this was promoting free speech. I, of course, could look at it from a more jaded view, too. This is also sort of a conflict of interest, because what legislator wants to have prohibited
campaign
signs for their reelection?
Sure.
And people are referring to this as free speech, an issue of free speech, and I think I've mentioned to you before. There was the famous Holmes, dissertation that he had on this whole area of free speech, and he said people have the freedom of speech in our country, but that doesn't mean that they can yell fire in a movie theater.
Sure.
You have free speech, but you also have certain constraints when you're dealing and living in a community, when you're dealing with a business. And here you're dealing with someone with free speech inside a business. And I think the disconnect comes with the state legislature is in failing to recognize that the association is a business.
Yeah, it's a business, and it's also meant to oversee for the benefit of everyone in the community.
And it is formed and recognized as a corporation.
Yep.
And so as being raised and so being recognized as a corporation, one question I have is, why would the state become involved with how the governance takes place in a privately held corporation where, yes, one or two people may wish to have these amenities and these things to do, but if a majority of them said, no, we don't, now you're saying that the right of the individual is greater than that of the majority, even though they all agreed to this prior to moving
purchasing,
in. They made that statement. So I've got some issues.
It just gets down to the rights and abilities of the homeowners association to operate.
Yes, and I've got a few more things that I'd like us to talk about this, but it looks like we've got to take one more break here. When we come back, we want to talk more about what's happening with Senate File 926. That's right here on Where You Live with Gene and Tony on AM 1280, The Patriot.